Hi, everybody. I am Jasmin Lee. I am a director and the studio manager at Dean Street Studios. I have been since we started the company in 2007.
My name's Stan Kybert. I am both a stereo music producer and mix engineer, and I'm also a Dolby Atmos music mixer.
Perfect. Thank you both very much for joining us. So I wanted to talk a little bit about effectively the relaunch of Dean Street, which was recently announced. New Dolby setup there, which we'll come to shortly. But what can you tell us a little bit about the relaunch in general? Kind of when did work begin on kind of upgrading the studio, and tell us a little bit about how much of that was going on during the lockdown and how much the pandemic kind of influenced the decision to upgrade the studio in this way.
Sure. So this all sort of happened really sort of later part of lockdown. The first part of lockdown was spent sort of frantically speaking to governing bodies, trying to make sure that we could stay alive during the whole period. And then we started exploring the possibilities of how to future-proof the business and what would be the most sensible way forward for it. And we started a massive refurb on Studio One. It was the beginning of August, I believe, the first week of August. And literally it was 3 weeks later and it was all done and dusted. It didn't take long at all.
Great. So what can you tell us about the refurb and the new kit that's been installed?
So the room is now equipped with many speakers. So now the room is now equipped with a PMC system that is a 914. 9 being there are 9 speakers around, kind of consider that at head height. The 1 being the subs, and there are 4 of those behind the console. And then the 4, the pair above at the front, and there's a pair at the rear. I think the minimum Dolby Atmos requirement is 712. But the way that Dolby Atmos is a dynamic format in the way we make our mixes, and it adapts to whatever device you're playing, from headphones all the way up to 914 and beyond. But also we wanted to retain the Dean Street as a recording and a stereo mix room as well. So you can see these speakers for the Atmos setup above me, but then we've got 6 of the surrounds that are behind the cloth. So when we're working with artists, they're not just wowed by the tech, or the technology encroaches on the creative space. We think we've struck a nice balance with that. So yeah, the room's dual purpose. Behind, I keep pointing, it's only because I'm in here, but behind here is the glass. So we're the only, as far as we're aware, we're the only dedicated Dolby Atmos music recording studio in the UK. The glass goes onto the live room. So we are exploring the possibilities of recording in Atmos, as that currently hasn't happened. It's mixing work that's happening. So yeah, dual purpose. Although the Atmos mixing is in the box, we run 2 separate machines for it, but it's technically a digital process. It's mixing within the box. We've still got lots of nice outboard and want to use the room as a dual purpose facility as well.
Yeah, so we basically, with the actual room renovation, we ripped the whole thing out. It hasn't actually been touched since the 70s in Tony Visconti's day. We redid the live room, all the other communal spaces, all the other studios, but we left the control room because it was actually very fit for purpose when we took the building on. So that now has been, it was completely ripped out in August, re-acoustically treated. So it's a phenomenal room, because we had a few little bass issues and stuff before, which have now all been addressed. So it's one of the, well, I think, I'm biased, but I think it's one of the best sounding rooms. Yeah, but let's go within London, shall we?
Yeah, the side effects of the renovations was it was a good sounding room that was used for tracking a lot. It is definitely what I would consider a mix room as well as a recording space now. The acoustic treatment in the room, it sounds significantly better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. So when did, I know you said that the work started in kind of August time. How long had you been thinking prior to that of upgrading to have a Dolby Atmos system?
Not long. We actually only came across Dolby Atmos in, gosh, I think it was May, maybe April. Okay, it stemmed from a conversation. So actually, no, it was just before lockdown.
Yeah, I was going to say March. When they in the March?
Yeah, it was mid-March. So Chris Allen from PMC had come down to the studio to see Simon Saywood, who's our wonderful, he's our in-house tech, but he's also analog tube, wonderful, phenomenal, amazing man. And one of my colleagues got speaking to Chris about speakers and all sorts, and he started telling us about this new Dolby Atmos system they'd just put in place, and it was all sounding amazing. And we got the information fed back to us and we were like, oh, okay, that sounds interesting. And we were immediately researching, and we hadn't really heard about much before. And yeah, kind of took the plunge very quickly.
Cool. So for those who maybe aren't too aware of Dolby Atmos or have not experienced mixing in Dolby Atmos before, what can you tell us about what it actually has to offer? If someone wanted to come to the studio and use these facilities, what are the benefits?
Kind of the main points would be that Dolby Atmos music, it's a dynamic format. So the possibilities within the space are vast. It's why we always talk before we engage on a project. We kind of have this discussion about what is it that you want to achieve from your Atmos mix, because some people want to be fully immersed, some people want to be wowed, some people want a more traditional approach. So the format itself allows for more possibilities. And when I'm talking about Atmos to somebody who hasn't heard it before, I always tend to start with think of it as a wider, taller, deeper stereo. So, music's forward facing. It kind of always has been. It therefore, when I'm mixing my rock tracks, traditionally, I'm going to kind of keep my drums and bass coming at me from the front. And then thinking about it as a bigger palette, as a bigger canvas, more colors. The depth within Atmos, it's richer. It's a richer music experience in the format demands a bit more from the listener within the setup. So when you're streaming an Atmos mix, part of that process is the file will talk to the device and play the optimal mix on the device. So when we create, in stereo, we make one mix in stereo, and that gets played on earbuds in the kitchen, in the shower, in the car, in the studio. Atmos will when you create an Atmos mix, it's creating an Atmos mix, a 7.1, a 5.1, a stereo, and a headphone binaural mix. And then when that gets encoded out to stream, it then is dynamic in that it understands the hardware it's playing back on and optimizes the version for that, all the way up from 914 down to headphones. And the headphone experience is really, really good. So part of that process is it will only play it on an Atmos device, and those Atmos devices sound great. There's hundreds of millions of Atmos devices already in homes. In Amazon make the Echo Studio. There are sound bars that are ready. Sennheiser, shout out to them, make the Ambio. That sound, we've got one next door. Check my mixes on that, sounds great. And what I say, it demands more from the listener. We've kind of got to this place with stereo where the deliverables have degraded within audio quality, but then how we consume, like earbuds and Apple buds and shouldn't maybe not, no, not slagging off Apple, but the quality as in stereo has definitely diminished, and maybe is like an all-time low. And Atmos as a format demands more from that. So no special headphones, but if you get a set of Sennheiser 660s, it's pretty good entry standard high-end headphone, you'll get a richer experience. You have a soundbar. I mean, the Amazon Echo Studio speakers, what, 200 quid less?
Yep.
And sounds awesome. It's a great sounding speaker. So the format itself is dynamic. It will adjust to the device it's being played on. And when you think about it, like stereo being 90 years old, and it doesn't do that. I don't know, it seems weird now, 2020, that we've still got this, old technology. So yeah, it adapts to the format it's being played on. It's funny because in the actual practice of Atmos mixing, you have far more vast options, but you end up doing less. There's less processing, there's more space, there's room for everybody. When you're mixing in stereo, it's a constant compromise of what you're giving to the listener. So you're always carving EQ and compression and making space, and make sure the lead vocal's there, and then moving or manipulating instrumentation around the lead vocal. You don't have to do that in Atmos. There's enough space for everybody. And then when you get it right, it's a richer experience for the listener. And then, the reason I got into music many moons ago was about that experience, right? It's that emotion, it's that connection with, I think of all my favorite records, there was associated with a time, a memory, a feeling, and we've lost that feeling in stereo, not in music. In stereo, we've somehow got away from that connection and that feeling, and it's very accessible within Atmos.
Okay. I mean, are there any particular types of genre or types of project that will benefit most from using Atmos, or is it equally?
So I have yet to come across a genre that doesn't benefit. Yeah. And obviously I'm biased. Well, I'm not biased, but I don't know why it was obvious. But yeah, I haven't yet. I'm a little bit. I'm a little bit, just because it's not my bag. I'm a little bit frightened of getting a heavy rock death metal project in, because that music in its production and style and the emotion it's trying to convey is aggressive, sonic onslaught. In Atmos, that's just going to be magnified. But it's not all just about space and size. In Atmos, it's easier to be more intimate. You can be more delicate within, it's not just big and size and making stuff bigger. You can also draw the listener in. It's more dynamic as a format. So we're working towards a regulation, a standardization for level. So you want quiet moments to emphasize loud moments. We can do that. It's more expressive from a mixer's point of view. It's very, very enjoyable.
Fantastic.
It's incredible listening to different genres of music we've been experiencing in Studio One so far. I mean, it stands right. It lends itself to everything, but there are certain things which are undeniably beautiful in Atmos. And I've got to bring this up, orchestra recordings, whether it be on a pop record, a rock record, or just a classical record. I think because orchestra recording wasn't really taken into account much before with the microphone setups and stuff. Now, if it's done correctly with the recording process, listening in Atmos, it is the swells that you get with all the orchestra. It's phenomenal. I mean, really, really phenomenal. I mean, talk about being in the center of the music is the only way to describe it.
Incredible. I mean, have you started taking bookings for people wanting to use that studio now? What's the response been like since you announced it?
Very good, very positive actually. We're pretty busy, which is fantastic. Let's see what happens with this lockdown. But this is where as I said, when we were looking at future-proofing the studio, this actually plays well to our section, because obviously people are a bit wary of coming in for attended sessions at the moment. We're very COVID secure. We are taking absolute 100% precautions on making sure that all our clients, staff and community are safe. But it still has a problem. But with the Atmos, we don't actually need anybody attending. It's just literally somebody coming in to listen to sign the mix off or coming to hear the sound that has been produced. But it makes it very, very easy for us to continue working in a situation like this. So yeah, it's good. It's good.
Excellent. And aside from the new studio and the new setup, how have you been managing through the pandemic from when the first lockdown started back in March? How has business been progressing, and have you implemented any new strategies or anything like that to kind of future-proof the place and to ensure that you can stay open?
Yeah, well, we had to shut down when the original lockdown was announced because we are in central London. Our footfall is pretty large. So we actually closed our doors on the 23rd of March, I think it was the date. And then we reopened at the beginning of July with much, obviously full PPE available on the reception desk, track and trace, making sure that we are limiting the amount of people in rooms to make sure that we can keep social distancing to a key point. We do have 4 other rooms down at Dean Street. So the battle has been sort of making sure the corridors and the toilets and the communal kitchen spaces, for example, are safe, which has been a bit of a challenge, but we're there, it's good. We haven't really made any more changes to the actual building itself, other than there's notifications up everywhere, there's like literally hand gel every 2 steps you walk, and that kind of thing. But it's been tough because we've got a community down at Dean Street as well. I've got some other long-term people, they've all struggled through. Obviously, as much as we've been able to sort of claw back on our outgoings, we've passed on to our other residents as well, so they're very thankful, and it's a lovely team down at Dean Street. We're like one big family, aren't we, Stan, down there?
Great. So is there anything that you have either learned from the previous lockdown experience or the reopening experience that has prepared you for this new lockdown that's just been announced? What are your thoughts and predictions, if you like, for how the next weeks and months are going to play out?
That's a really tough one to answer. So obviously we have been working very closely with the MPG during this whole lockdown procedure. They've been amazing in helping all the recording studios. They've started a sort of governing body to help us all, because there wasn't one in existence after the APRS closed down. So they've taken it on themselves to sort of act as our governing body. They've been making sure that we have all the guidelines in place, extensive guidelines, which we've got in a massive, thick folder like this at Dean Street. That has given us a massive insight into how we can actually manage this pandemic. And we've been told that we don't have to close on this one, which is fantastic. So we're staying open, again, very COVID secure, making sure everybody's safe and feels that way when they come down into the studio. So yeah, I can't thank everybody enough that's helped us through, but obviously it's all going to depend on how clients feel about coming in. So as much as we can say, yep, we're open, we've got this, everything's safe, it's whether people are going to want to travel to get to us in central London. That's going to be the key point. So we'll just have to see, I suppose.
Have you managed to pick up any kind of inkling as to how, whether it's engineers or artists or whoever, feel about coming in to record at the moment?
I think everybody's they seem quite, no, they want to carry on, basically.
Yeah.
I know that I've done several letters for clients this morning, saying that they're coming for essential recording if it's happening after Thursday. So if they get stopped when they're traveling, they've got something to show from a business saying that they are traveling to a business for essential needs for work. Nobody's cancelled yet, fingers crossed. A few people are shuffling things around to suit better, but obviously, everything can change in the beat of a heart, because it's a beat of a heart. Yeah, that'll do. In a heartbeat, there you go. Because obviously, if someone's other half is working and someone gets a COVID what's the right word?
Positive.
Diagnosis, then they've got to then self-isolate. So it's all these factors being taken into consideration. So we're making sure we're not putting any penalties in place for people who have to cancel last minute for these reasons. It's not fair. You know, we're just kind of muddling through as much as we can, really.
Okay. Well, I sincerely hope that people do still keep coming in and don't cancel sessions, and that things are able to continue as normally as is humanly possible. But yeah, it sounds fantastic, and I look forward to hopefully being able to come in and visit the place when.
Yes, got to get you down. You've got to come and hear this room.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Afternoon Atmos Listening Club.
Yeah.
Come and join. Dolby, Tidal have got Dolby with Tidal have a Atmos playlist. So to access Atmos music, currently you need a Amazon HD subscription or a Tidal Hi-Fi subscription.
Yep.
And then Tidal do a weekly update, a weekly playlist of the new tracks coming out. So we're always Friday afternoons. Get the Tidal app out and streaming through the system here to have a listen and see what people are doing.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you both very much, and hopefully see you at some point soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Been an absolute pleasure.